Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today, I am finally returning to you to do another installment in my Read or Unhaul series, which I started quite a few months ago at this point, and then kind of just didn't prioritize it, so I have not read any of the books on my Read or Unhaul shelf/challenge. So today I am hoping to read between 2 and 4 books, minimum 2, maximum 4, because I really have not been prioritizing this, and I'm really hoping to get through quite a few of these before the end of the year, especially because as I'm getting more and more books, they're not fitting on the shelves, and I don't want the shelf space to be taken up by books that I don't want to read or that I don't enjoy. So I have a whole shelf of books, which is down in a place where you cannot see, but I have a whole shelf of books that are included in this challenge. And I've actually added 4 more since the last time we spoke because they're on the shelf, and I was like, oh, well, I know I'm going to get to them, so I shouldn't put them on there. But are you going to get to them if you don't put them there? Clearly, I haven't even been getting to them if I put them on there. So a few more things have been added, but I want to do this in like a fun way where every installment in this series, I'm going to be picking the books in a different way. So the first one, I picked them based on that month's Buzzwordathon prompts. And this month, I'm going to be using a little spinner that is just going to randomly pick. We're going to start with 2 books and go from there for me to read. And so it'll be completely random for me. And then next month, hopefully when I do another one of these, I'll pick them differently again so that each time it's fun and different for me. And I would say that I'm very much a mood reader, but it's also like if a book is handed to me and it's like, this is what you're going to read, I'm like, okay, I'll read it. Like, I'm more of a mood reader in the way of I'm in the mood to read or I'm not in the mood to read. And then in that case, I just kind of pick up whatever. So now saying that, there's a few things that I hope I don't get, mainly because a lot of the things on the shelf are in series, which is why I've put off reading them for so long. And I don't really want to get involved in a series right now, but most of them are in series. So I feel like no matter what I pick, I'm going to end up in that position. But I also then remind myself, just because it's in a series does not mean you need to read the whole series. So honestly, the goal here is to unhaul something. Like, hopefully I love and enjoy what I'm reading, but at the same time, so many of these things are just taking up space. And when I look at them, I'm like, I have no interest in this. And so even in saying that, it's like, there's no interest in me reading it, but like, I don't want to get rid of it because what if I do really like it? So we'll just have to see what ends up happening, what books I pull, but let's just get started and spin the wheel. So here I have the wheel with all of the books. So I'm just going to give it a spin and we'll just see what I get. Verify. Okay, luckily this one is a duology, but it's just a duology, and this one has been on my shelves for so long, so I'm actually really excited that this one got pulled. So Verify by Joelle Charbonneau follows this character in a world where lies don't exist. So like everything that you hear is the truth. However, when her mother dies, she then starts asking questions that no one else is asking, and she starts to realize maybe this truth that I've been fed my whole life is not quite as accurate as I thought it was. And I've read quite a few things from Joelle Charbonneau, and I really enjoy her writing. This one is just, I tend to read more like high fantasy sci-fi, not so much dystopian like this. So it was just never something that I like gravitated towards. So I'm actually really glad that this is something that I am now being forced to read, because there is a high chance that I really enjoy it, because I know that I enjoy this author's writing. And this is one that sits on the very bottom of that pile. So hopefully by pulling it out, we can put it somewhere else on the shelves or unhaul it so that I don't have to keep pulling it from the very bottom. But I am actually quite excited to read this one. We're going to spin the wheel for book number 2 and see what we get. Defy the Stars. Okay, this is another book that from an author that I've read from before and really enjoyed, and that is Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. I have a lot of books on this shelf, I'm realizing, with stars or defy in the title in some other way. So when I first pulled this one, I was like, I have no clue what that is. This is a bit of a thicker one, and this is another one that's been sitting there for a long time because this one is sci-fi, but I know that's in a series and it's significantly older. But I do really enjoy Claudia Gray's writing. I think I've read 2 or 3 books from her. I think I've only read her Star Wars novel, so I'm excited to read like an original idea from her. However, because this one's a bit older and it's in a oh my god, it's signed. I feel like I have this realization every time I pull this book off, but I feel like this one is significantly older. Let's see, 2017, which I want to say isn't that long ago, but it's over 5 years ago. Oh my god. Wait, 8 years ago this one was published. So I actually don't know. Oh, this is where she is a soldier and he's kind of like a robot machine type thing, and then they have to work together but possibly end up falling for each other. I don't know. I really like books that are set in space and like have to do with space, I guess, especially in a sci-fi setting. So there's a high chance that I'm really gonna like this. I just don't know how I feel about it being in a series and it being, oh my god, close to 500 pages. 497, oh, no, keep going. 503 pages. So I think we're gonna start with these two. And because this one's so much bigger, if we had gotten more that were this size, I probably would have spun the wheel again. But because this one's significantly thicker, I think we're gonna start here. And I feel like these two really represent what's happening on the shelf, which are things that I've picked up a long time ago. And I really was interested in them because of the author and mildly because of the plot at that time. And now that they've sat there and my reading taste has kind of changed, and I don't want to say matured, but like I've gotten older, my reading taste has kind of skewed a little bit older, and these are both YA. Not that I don't read YA anymore, but I feel like I tend to skew towards like upper YA, and these are definitely like middle YA. So these are really very representative of what's happening on that shelf, and so I'm actually quite glad that these got pulled together because these are two of the oldest books on my shelves. So really actually quite excited to read both of these, and I have no clue what to expect for either of them other than I've read both of these authors' writing before. So it's kind of really interesting that these both got pulled together because they're very similar in the reason why they're on my shelves. So I think I'm going to start with Verify. Actually, we spun this one first, so we'll start here and just get into this because I feel like this one I have a higher chance of DNFing just because, yes, I like this author, but what I've read from her in the past has been fantasy. So really curious about this, and the plot sounds like vaguely interesting, but not really something that I feel like is gripping me. So we're gonna start here, see how this goes, and I guess just go from there. Oh, this one's also signed. I think I got this one in a book box. I think that's how I ended up with this one. Okay, that makes sense. So this one is also signed, but have fun. Something interesting, the author name and the title of the book are like blacked out at the top, which is a fun detail for a book about like misinformation. Several updates for you. Last night, as you saw, I started Verify and I read one chapter before deciding to put this down because it is just not for me. Now, there's nothing again, only read one chapter, so it might get better. However, it just felt very juvenile and very simple, which is totally fine because this is a YA book and I feel like it's on the younger end of YA. Our main character in here is 16, and I just could tell from that first chapter that this is not going to do anything that's really going to excite me or interest me or keep my attention. And I was like, well, this is something that's been on my shelves for a long time. It's been there because I have not wanted to pick it up, and this is just kind of proving why I have not wanted to do that because I'm not enjoying it. And yes, it was only one chapter, but yeah, it was only like 16 pages that first chapter, so again, it could get better from there because it was only that first chapter. However, I could just tell from that it's not something that's going to wow me. It's not something that I'm going to enjoy reading. And especially now that I'm in school and I'm reading a lot for a lot of my classes, I do not want reading to feel like a chore or like a job or something that I have to do. And so if I'm not enjoying something, I don't want to force myself to keep going, especially because reading this would just take time away from reading something that I might actually enjoy. And like I said, there wasn't anything particularly wrong with this. I think had I read it when I first got it, I probably would not have had a problem with it. And it also made me wonder if, because I've read this author's writing before and I remember really enjoying it, but I read those books in 2018 when I was like 15. And so I'm wondering if I were to reread those now, I would have the same experience I did with this, where it felt very juvenile and just very younger than I'm wanting to read in my free time now. And so that could be the case. And so this just, it wasn't for me. Again, I think had I read it when it first came out, I might have really enjoyed it, but I didn't do that, so it's not going to work for me now, and there's no point in me forcing myself through it, so this is going to be an unhaul. And then because of that, I was still in the mood to read, just not something that I wasn't enjoying, so I did start Defy the Stars, and I read last night and this morning, and I'm already on page 205, and I am loving this. So that really just goes to show that, like, DNFing is a good thing. If you are not enjoying what you're reading, put it down, pick up something else. And just because I'm putting that down now doesn't mean that I'll never go back to it. In this instance, I probably won't, but you know, you don't have to like put it down forever. So for me, putting down Verify meant that I was able to get to this and read 200 pages of something that I am genuinely enjoying, rather than like slogging my way through something that I am not enjoying and that I am forcing myself to read. But this I am absolutely loving. This follows our two main characters, Noemi, who is a soldier for this planet Genesis, and our other main character, Abel, who is a mech, but he was designed to be very human-like, and he works with Earth. So in this world, Earth was crumbling the same way that it is now. It was unable to sustain the amount of life that was on it, so they started colonizing other planets, including Genesis. However, the people of Genesis then stood up to Earth and were like, we're not going to let you like colonize us and like do the same thing to Earth. Do the same thing to our planet that you did to Earth. And so they kind of like go into war with Earth, which then isolates them from the entire rest of the galaxy, called the Loop, which are these other planets within the Loop. And so the Genesis soldiers, including Noemi, are fighting against Earth soldiers. However, Earth does not send actual humans to fight in their war. They send these machines called mechs, which are pretty much just like robots in the form of humans. And there's 25 different models of them. And then we meet Abel, who is the 26th model. And he was designed like exclusively by the man who created all of the mechs, but he designed this one to be more like his son. So he has more like human capabilities than the other mechs. And in a skirmish where Noemi's best friend is injured, she ends up meeting Abel, and then she realizes that he holds the information that could lead to her planet's salvation, because they are about to go on this like suicide mission that is going to destroy the portal that allows like the Earth soldiers to get through. And so she's like, if I can use the knowledge that he has and the skills that he has as this like highly advanced mech to destroy the gate without having to like sacrifice all of these soldiers, I'm gonna do it. And so far, I'm really loving it, because you can tell that like there's gonna be like a trickle of romance between these two, because like they recognize that like there's good in the other, and like what they're doing is like they genuinely believe that they're doing what's best for their people, even if they don't necessarily agree with it. And they're kind of at this point just like using each other to their own ends, but at the same time they recognize why they're doing it, and like they kind of sympathize with the other, which makes it even more fascinating, because Abel as a mech is not supposed to experience human emotions, but because of the way he was designed, he experiences things in a more human way than any of the other mechs. And so we're kind of seeing him grapple with those emotions that he's feeling, because he's not supposed to be feeling them. And then we see Noemi, who has been taught her whole life that these mechs aren't to be trusted, like Earth is this awful place, like we need to isolate ourselves. And now she's seeing the rest of the galaxy, and she's realizing that things are just as bad for all of these other planets as they are for her planet of Genesis. However, she also then ends up getting embroiled in a revolution that the other planets are taking on, because they also do not like the way they're being treated by Earth. And so there's like so much happening, and at the same time it's like so wonderfully designed for teens. I'm currently taking a class in my grad program all about like YA literature and books for teens, and so I'm kind of like evaluating everything more critically from that perspective. And so this I'm like loving. I'm having such a great time with it. It's so fun and fast paced, but like there's so much emotion to everything, and like also it's very educational in a way that I wasn't expecting, because Genesis, the planet that Noemi is from, has been so isolated and cut off from the entire rest of the Loop, which is the whole rest of the planets. She does not know a whole lot. She only knows what her planet has taught her, but she's also like very aware that she doesn't know everything, so she's very open to learning. And so when they get to a planet, they realize they don't have enough credits to like buy the part that they need, and she's talking to Abel, and she's like, well, didn't you account for that? And he's like, well, I accounted for some inflation, but not at this rate. And she's like, what's inflation? And so then he explains it to her in like a really simple way that like if I was like a genuine like a teen reading this and wasn't familiar with inflation, that would have explained it to me perfectly. And so there's just like little sprinklings of things like that, and I'm like, Claudia Gray was writing for teens and she did it really well. And so while yes, this does read a little bit younger, and there's like conversations about how Noemi as a character, she's only like 16 I think again, and so she's quite young, but she's been put in a position as a warrior, as a soldier, where she has to act older than she is and like compartmentalize all of her emotions. And so she's acting in a way that like I feel like only teens could, in that like teen vigor, while also recognizing that like she doesn't know that much, and so she has a lot to learn about herself and about the whole rest of the galaxy. And I'm just having such a great time with this. Like I said, I'm 205 pages in, and I'm eating it up so far. I did get the audiobook just because some of the names and like the different planets and things, I just, also because they're mechs, I wanted to know if the voice was different. It's dual narration for both of the characters, and I'm absolutely loving the audiobook. So I'm really enjoying this one so far, and I'm really glad that I ended up putting Verify down to get to this, because I feel like that would have put me in a slump if I had kept going with it. But now I'm reading something that I'm absolutely eating up, so I'm having a really great time with this. Okay, I have finished Defy the Stars, and I absolutely love this. This was so much fun, and it is a series. It's definitely, like, it's a trilogy, I believe, and I think the second two have, like, ugly covers. I don't think they match this one, but I will be continuing on with the series because I did really enjoy this, and I'm really curious to see where the story goes from here. Like, I can see some threads of what might be followed in the next two books, but I feel like most of the things that were dealt with here, like the big picture of, like, stopping the war, still going on, but, like, I feel like if you read this and enjoyed it, you don't necessarily have to go on to the next two, because this is like a solid story arc in here. Like, we really see like the slow burn of the little romance that they have, and while it doesn't have like a satisfying conclusion, I would say, it definitely is a conclusion. Like, you could leave it here and still feel like you had a fully contained story within itself without having to read the next two, which I really enjoy, because I feel like sometimes teens don't want to be picking up things in a series, but sometimes they do. And so this really like gives you the option of like, you could read this out like on its own as its own thing, or you could continue on with the series and then have even more of an experience. But this could, in a way, be read on its own. I don't think I'd recommend it that way, but it could. However, I will be continuing on because I love this. Abel and Noemi were such a like fun duo, because it's like they really start, I don't want to say hating each other. Like, Noemi is not a fan of Abel because he's a mech, but at the same time, she's like, you were designed for a specific purpose. Like, I can't hate you, but I hate your creator and like what, like the purpose you were created for. And then as Abel starts to realize that because he is like the most advanced mech to ever be created, he has a lot more abilities and capabilities than a regular mech, and is able to feel like human emotions truly, like in his own way. But Noemi even comes to realize like he has a soul. And there was one line where she was like, how evil is it of your creator to give you a soul but imprison it within like your robotic form? And there were just so many things in here that I really loved. Like, when they went to this one planet, she was talking about how she was seeing all these newsreels, which she's not used to because on her planet they don't really have a lot of technology like that. So the news is like flashing through all of these like awful things that are happening, like droughts and plagues and famines, and then like interspliced within that is like, buy this thing, enjoy this product, buy what we're selling, which is like so true to what we're even seeing today, of just like the news is just constantly like, genocide, buy this product, genocide, Amazon must-haves. And I feel like this one came out in 2017, I think, but it still feels so relevant. And Claudia Gray's writing is just so wonderful, and it's so easy to read and so digestible that you get through it really quickly. Even though like this is a 500-page book, I read it so fast and loved every page of it, and I will be continuing on in the series. Now, I don't think it's a 5-star. It just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. I think other books in this trilogy have the potential to be 5 stars, but this one was a 4.5, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad to have finally read it, because I love books that take place in space, and this is another one that I get to add to my collection of books that take place in space that I can recommend, because I really enjoyed this, and I will be continuing on with the series. So I'm really excited about this, and that means that since we have read one book and DNF'd one, we are going to spin the wheel for our next read. So I have our wheel here. Let's give her a spin and see what she gives us. Last of the Talons. Okay, I think this one is also in a series, but I am actually quite excited for this one, and it's like very much a diversion from the first two things that we've read / DNF'd. So Last of the Talons, this is a fake crate edition that I have. I'm not really sure what makes it different than the regular edition, but the spine is embossed and it came with an art print of the cover. I don't know if it's an alternative cover or if it's just the same. I'm not really sure. But then it also has an author letter. And this follows our main character, who is like this weapon of a crime lord. And the only reason she agrees to do his bidding is because her sister's life hangs in the balance. And so she does what he tells her and goes on these missions that he sends her on to protect her sister, until she gets sent on this like incredibly deadly mission where she enters this like dream-like realm and she can win her life, but only if she kills the emperor of that realm first. And so she ends up embroiled in like so much more than she bargained for, because she just wants to protect her sister. And that's all I know about it right now, but I'm really looking forward to reading this one, because this is one that I sat on my shelves for a while, but it's like I will get to that one at some point. I will read it eventually, and eventually has come, so I'm really looking forward to starting this one. Yes, I'm wearing the same shirt as yesterday. Don't judge me. But I'm about 50% through Last of the Talons, and I have a lot of thoughts, none of which are particularly positive. I feel like this book is doing so many things. It's just not really doing any of them well. Like, it's not doing them poorly, it's just not doing them well. So this follows our main character, Lena, who was part of this. Her parents died, and so it was just her and her sister, and then she somehow got roped into this gang called the Talons, and then something occurred where they all got murdered, and she is now working for like the rival gang, the Black Bloods, I think, something like that. And she is just like going on missions for them because they know where her sister is, and they're like, if you don't do what we want you to do, we're gonna kill your sister. And she loves her sister, so she's not gonna let that happen. So the inciting incident here is that she goes to steal this tapestry that has like gems woven into it so they could take the gems and sell them. But this tapestry belongs to a mythical creature of the Dokkaebi. I don't speak Korean, obviously, so not so sure on the pronunciation there, but she steals it from that like mythical creature who has like a lot of power, and he really valued that tapestry, so he's not happy that it was stolen. So he kidnaps, I guess, the like gang leader, but because she is from this like rival gang, everyone just assumes that she had something to do with it, and so she's like, I'll fix it because I don't want anything to happen to my sister. So she goes into this like other realm where these mythical creatures exist, and it turns out that the guy who she is now contending with is like the emperor of this realm, and he makes a deal with her, and he's like, if you can kill me, I will send you back to your realm with the guy that you need in tow, and everything will be set right. But if you don't succeed in killing me, I'm going to kill you. And she's like, she is an assassin, she is a thief, she is like the Reaper of Sun Po, so she's like, I got this, I can handle killing you. No, much harder than she thought. So she is now in this other realm, which is like a pocket dimension, and she is trying to kill this emperor guy while also like kind of falling for him and like getting close to him. But then at the same time, she needs to like kill him in order to protect her sister and get back to her realm. And like, it's fine. Like, it's not doing anything wrong. Like I said, I feel like it's just trying to do so much because we have like her as the Reaper being like this formidable assassin with the gangs. So we have that aspect, but then we also have like the rival gang and what happened there. Then we have her sister. Then we have her coming to this other realm, trying to kill the emperor, falling for the emperor, and then some kind of like revolution type plot, subplot within subplots happening there. And then we also have her falling for the emperor. So there's just like so many pieces, and I feel like none of them, because there's so many pieces, I feel like none of them were given the proper attention that they needed to be done well. And so they're all just kind of bland. Like, I feel like there's so much in here, and that could be really wonderful and could really like keep you hooked, but because none of them are really like fleshed out or done super well, I find myself just being like, there's too much happening, and like none of them seem to have any weight. Like, really my biggest complaint here is that her sister, who she's doing all of this for, like her sister being kept safe is like her driving force. We know nothing about the sister. Like, the sister like barely exists in here, and that really sucks because if our main character's entire motivation is to keep her sister safe, we as the reader should see more about her relationship with her sister, but we don't get like any of that. Like, for the first like 100 pages, it was really just, I just have to remember my sister, like I'm doing this for her, and it's like, okay, but why? Like, we know nothing about her, and like we're getting flashbacks of her like as a Talon in that gang, and her sister's like nowhere to be found. There was one scene where it was talking, there were two scenes, one was super brief though, of like with her sister, and they were both just like generic sisterly things. And so it's just like, if your whole motivating driving factor is protecting the sister, we need more of that relationship. Like, you can't just say, oh, she has a sister, and expect us to be like, of course that's why she's doing all this. I feel like I need more there, and because that is literally the driving factor of everything that's happening in here, because I don't care about the sister, because we have been given nothing in order to care, I don't care. Imagine that. And like, that's the thing, it's like I'm halfway through, and like there were so many times I was like, I could put this down and like not care. And it's in a trilogy, and there's no way that I'm reading the sequels just because I don't care about this. And it's like, if I'm not having a good time with this, why would I continue on? So I went and I read the descriptions for the next two books. Second one sounds fantastic. Third one, not at all something I'm interested in. And so it's like, part of me wants to just put it down, but another part of me wants to know how this ends, because like killing the emperor is the only way that she is going to get out of here and like continue on and save her sister. but it's very clear that she's not going to kill him because they're falling for each other. So I'm just very curious to see how we end up wrapping it up. We're obviously not going to wrap it up because it's a trilogy, so I'm not really sure where I'm at with this. I want to finish it because I want to know what's going to happen and how we're going to resolve some of the issues, I hope. But it's just doing so much, and like, this doesn't look like that big of a book, but it's 400 pages and I'm feeling every single one of those pages. So like, I don't know, I'm just having a time, you know, not good, not bad, somewhere in the middle, leaning towards bad, you know? And it's like, I could enjoy this. There are so many aspects in here that I'm really enjoying. Like the relationship dynamic between Lena and the Emperor, loving it. I love Lena as a main character. There's so many things outside of that I'm not caring for. So I wish we had like boiled it down and like streamlined it to just those things and like gotten rid of some of the like outside factors, because I think that would have really strengthened the parts that I am enjoying. So like, I am going to continue just because I'm so far in. I feel like I need to see it through, but just know I'm not really having that great of a time. And I don't think that this one is a matter of like when I picked it up, because the writing of the book isn't going to change, and like, it's a fantasy novel and I'm enjoying the fantasy parts. There's just so much happening in here that I feel like no matter when I picked it up, I would have had the same problems with it. I just might not have been as able to articulate those thoughts. Not that I'm doing a great job now, but right. So like, yeah, I'm having a fine time. I just wish that like, I can see how changes could be made to make it better, and they just weren't. And it definitely reads like a debut. Like, it just feels a little like tropey and a little like every idea that I've ever had for a novel all into this one thing, which I think it's to a detriment, truly. But I am going to keep reading. I am going to finish it. I just don't know that when I finish it, I'm going to have anything good to say. And that really sucks because I really enjoy the main character. I feel like really the parts that I enjoy the most are like the flashback scenes to her with the talons. So I almost wish that like we had focused on that rather than what's happening here. But I'm also curious to see where we go from here, because reading the description of the next two novels, very curious to see how this ends. But I just feel like, you know, and also she's supposed to be this like big bad like warrior, like the Reaper of Sun Po, and we see her train not once. We see her training in her like flashback sequences, but never in the present. And I'm like, girl, like, I just, again, because there's so much happening that we don't have time for those things that would really help to build depth. We're doing a lot of things very shallowly, and we're not doing anything deeply. So that's really my biggest complaint at the moment, but I am going to keep reading because I enjoy the relationship between her and the Emperor. I'm really enjoying that aspect. I just wish we had like focused in on it more, but that's what I'm feeling. So I'm going to continue. This will probably be the last book I read just because it's taking me so long to get through this. Like, I was reading for like 2 hours just to get to where I'm at now. And I feel like it's just taking me so long to get through. It feels so dense, but it also feels like nothing's happening. So I am going to keep reading, probably against my better judgment. I probably should just put it down, but I do want to know how it ends, especially if I've sunk in so much time into it at this point. So I will keep reading. I have finished Last of the Talons, and unfortunately, all of my thoughts that I had before carried through to the end, and in fact got worse because they continued to introduce new plot elements. So, you know, I can see what was trying to be done, and like, I feel like my thoughts on this are quite complex because like, it wasn't bad, it just really tried to do too much and then could not do all of those things to a level that felt good, I guess, because it's like, it again was not bad, it really tried to do too much, because then it introduced so many more things towards the end that are going to continue into the next two books. And I'm hesitant to say that I will never pick up the next two, because that's not true. I might eventually at some point pick up the next one, just because this one leaves on a point of revenge where Lena is very much like, I'm going to get my revenge. Now she has the ability to do so. So I can see where it's gonna go, and like, I'm interested, and I feel like the writing in here at times you could like see through the curtains to be like, this is some really good writing, and like, this author, she might have learned from this and like really strengthened her writing. I feel like usually with debut novels, most of the time there's like a rare few where it's like, wow, this is really good. But I feel like for debut authors, you can usually see little parts where it's like, no, as you keep writing, you're gonna get so good. And I could see that here. So I am curious to potentially pick up something else from this author, even if it is something else in this series, because I really love Lena as a character. I love that she's so ruthless and she kills and she doesn't really feel that much remorse for it, which is something that I know personally I really like in characters. And there was even an author's note at the beginning of this, and I don't know if that's just the Fae Crate edition or if all of them have it, but she was saying Growing up, I rarely saw characters who looked like me and were not crammed into the stereotypical role of geeky best friend. There was nothing I wanted more than to see myself as a snarky assassin, a swashbuckling pirate, or a fearless warrior, and yet I never did. And so she wrote that story with her Korean heritage in mind, and like, yes, she did that very well. Like, Lena's character was done so well. It's just like her motivations and like the surrounding plot elements just weren't as strong. And because Lena as a character was such a strength and like such a strong point of the novel, those other things looked even weaker in comparison. So I do think that I want to continue on because I do really love Lena, and I'm very curious to see where the relationship goes, because it is very much a slow burn. Like, by the end of this, they're not even really together. They're kind of realizing that like they come from opposite sides and they have like such different wants and needs and desires, but they also want and need and desire each other. So I do actually think that I might pick up the sequel. I don't know that I'll read the whole trilogy, but I am actually curious to keep going because I can tell that this author's writing is only going to strengthen as she continues to grow her skills. And so I'm really looking forward to actually continuing on with the series. I feel like I've talked myself into it, but like, Lena as a character is truly just like, I love her so much. It's rare that we see like an assassin, like especially in like a YA, like a female YA lead, being so like ruthless and strong and like being able to take down these opponents and not having like huge weakness. Like, her sister was her weakness, and that was a weak point of the story, but like, she was just so strong and confident and skilled, and I really love that. So I did end up giving this 3 stars, but I do think that I will read the sequel. I don't know if I'll read the whole trilogy, but I definitely at some point will hopefully get to the sequel. But that means that we have read all 3 books, that 3.5, I guess, books for this vlog. So we started with Verify, that I ended up DNFing, and I feel no remorse for that. This is for sure a DNF. I've put it in my unhaul little area. I have no desire to go back to this. It does make me kind of sad because it is signed, and I do really like this author's other work, but like I was mentioning, I don't know if I were to reread it today, it would still hold up, but this, not for me. I had no interest. Nothing is holding me to it. No interest in even holding on to this one. And then we read Defy the Stars, which I absolutely loved and gave 4.5 stars, and will be continuing on in this series and will be holding on to this one and keeping it on my shelves. I did look into it, and the next 2 do not have a cover that even is close at all to this. I'll put a picture in. I think they're ugly. I think they're foul. I don't know that I'll actually own those ones, but this I will keep on my shelves, at least for now, because I do really enjoy it, and I'm going to put it with my other like space books. So really, really very happy that I finally got around to reading this. And then we concluded with something a bit more in the middle with Last of the Talents at 3 stars that I enjoyed. I thought it was fine. I had a lot of issues with it, but I do think that continuing on in the series, this author's strengths will continue to strengthen, and hopefully her weaknesses will shrivel and fall away. But those are the 3-ish things we read in this vlog, which means those are 3 things off of my Read or Unhaul shelf. So I started this challenge with 17 things on that shelf, and at the beginning of this vlog I said I added 4 things, but I think it was actually 5 that I added. Yeah, it was 5. So our starting number was 17. In the first episode I read 2 books, which brought us down to 15 on that shelf, 1 that I unhauled and 1 that I kept, and then I added 5 more books, which brought us up to 20 books, and then I read 3 more from that, which brings us back down to 17, so we're back exactly where we started, unfortunately, but at least we are getting things off of the shelves and we're making progress, and I'm reading things that I own and I'm getting them off of the shelf, because all of the things that I've put in this challenge are things that have been on my shelves for so long, and they just get like lost in the luster of the new books. And so actually prioritizing them means that I'm finally getting to them and either getting them off of my shelves if I'm no longer interested, or they no longer hold my interest, or I'm just genuinely like they're not for me, or I'm reading the things that I actually own and having a good time with them. So I would say overall this episode was a success, and even though we're technically back exactly to where we started, I from now will not be adding any more, hopefully, to the challenge, and so we will just continue to knock that number down. And I feel like if we continue at like the same rate, we'll be done with this hopefully by the end of the year. We still have like 3-ish months left in the year, so if I read 3 in the 3 months, that'll only be like 9, but by the end of this year I will at least have made a significant amount of progress in this challenge, and then I can continue it into the next year and then completely read all of those books that are in this challenge. So again, really successful episode, really happy with the things that I read. Even if I didn't love all of them, I'm happy to have read them, or to be getting rid of them then. So thank you so much for sticking around for this through the crazy ups and downs of this video. We really went from DNF at 16 pages to absolutely loving to I want to love it. So honestly, this was a really great episode, and I really feel like shows the full circle of possibilities that exist on this shelf. So a very exemplary episode of my Read or Unhaul challenge, but hopefully no, not hopefully, for the rest of the months in this year, there will be at least one episode each month of Read or Unhaul, so expect to see me back here again next month. I hope to see you back here again next month, but in the meantime, I do post a lot of other reading content and grad school content that I would love to see you around for. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and again, I hope to see you in another video again soon. Bye!